there, Husker fans. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there in Huskerville. Sam McKewon, along with Tom Shatel, Evan Bland will be with us in a moment. This is the Pick Six Podcast, Thanksgiving edition. We're coming to you on a Wednesday. Hopefully, it's a good holiday for you. I think it's going to be a relatively quiet day for us on Thursday, and then Friday is going to be really noisy. We're going to have Husker football at 11 a.m., Nebraska, Wisconsin volleyball at 3. And for those people who are interested, the Husker soccer team will try to make the College Cup. They play at 4 p.m. Friday against Stanford. So, Tom, this isn't just a single one-off Black Friday event. This is a whole day of Husker stuffing.
Is there any basketball? I mean, can we add that to it also? Or
I wish. I wish we were in the Rainbow Classic again when it was Nebraska playing Michigan on Black Friday in
yeah,
basketball. That was pretty great. But this is good, right? I mean, there's some stakes involved to
yeah.
Friday, and Evan is joining us now. There's some stakes in this, right? Like, I mean, this is an interesting Friday game
I think
for the
so.
Huskers.
I threw the question out to Husker fans Monday. What our readers, what would a bowl game or not going to a bowl game what would that do to the way you see rules for a season? And the majority, I got a lot of response, a ton of it, and the people were really fired up about this. And the majority, I'd say 98%, said it would not impact the way they look at the first season. I think it's been a very good year. A lot has been done. A lot has been changed. I had a couple of guys who said, if the bowl game doesn't matter, why did they change coaches? If you can't go to a bowl, why would we change coaches? And I think, oh, that's a very good point. But it's a lot more complicated than that.
Way more complicated.
I think a lot was done this year, but my I don't want to give away the column, but I don't think that we'll know what was done this year until next season. I think there's just a lot of things that this was sort of a set the table year for a lot of things, and but I think a bowl game is absolutely crucial to this program every year, and I really do feel like this year might be an exception, but just in general going forward, if you don't go to a bowl game, it can't be a good year. And I think people have kind of. I remember all the noise in 2004, when the bowl streak was snapped, and we haven't had that noise in a while. People, I'm not saying that they've accepted not going to a bowl, but it's just kind of okay. Well, there's another year without a bowl, I guess. I'm not sure it's apathy, but there has been some acceptance of that.
There has. I mean, for sure, when you haven't been to a bowl game in this long, it definitely comes through, and it definitely is a factor when you examine it that way. And I think there's just a kind of I don't know what the right word is. I agree with you that it's far more complicated than whether Nebraska makes a bowl this year or not. I mean, there's a number of things within Nebraska football that wasn't working, Tom. I mean, it just wasn't working the way that it's supposed to work. And as a result, it is a lot of those things are working now for Rhule. I mean, they're just better than they were under Scott Frost. And so those things, there is a long-term component to this, and I think in the long term, the longer term, that's where things are at. But this is a short-term moment, and I do feel like Nebraska's got a chance to win this game.
Yeah, if they play clean, I'm anxious to see Chuba Purdy, um, how he follows up last week. We started off strong, but I thought the last drive, he going down for the field goal, he played well there too. It wasn't like Wisconsin and got it all figured out. So I think he has a chance to play well. Losing Henrich is a deal, but they've lost guys off and on all year. I don't know. I'm anxious to see what that offense can do against Iowa's defense. I know it can be a struggle, but they are at home, and what can Sheba do? What can especially with his legs? Can he, so we'll see.
Evan, from your perspective, what do you think matters most going into this game?
I mean, it's such an interesting game. It's two teams that are so similar in a lot of ways. It feels like a game where Nebraska just kind of needs to grow up a little bit more. Like we heard it all week with them talking about how Iowa's comfortable in these low scoring games. They're comfortable with the fact that their offense isn't very good. They're comfortable playing the field position game. And it just kind of seems like Nebraska, when it gets into those spots, it too often can't get out of its own way. It feels like it can get bored with the run game and goes to the air at strange times. So I don't know. Like it feels like this has been a year where there's been a lot of growth culturally, certainly for Nebraska, and it kind of feels like this game is an opportunity for that to show up against a team on the other side that's further along in that regard by quite a long ways. And I think they have to navigate some of the emotional stuff too, right? Like how often through the years does it seem like some of the extra things catch up to Nebraska, the senior day stuff, the rivalry stuff, going to a bowl game? Can they kind of block all that out one more time? I don't know. And I thought, how about what Rhule said? He just kind of slid in that fact. I think it was today about the fact that Nebraska hasn't won a senior day game since 2018.
Right.
Pretty amazing that it's been that long. So I think just putting all that stuff together, kind of all that external stuff, because from a talent perspective, I think they're right there. But what's their mental state on Friday?
That's right. Yep. They've won the last game of the year in 2020 and 2022, but those are on the road. So yeah, I mean it's been a while since they've won on senior day. Tom, one thing that Evan and I always like to do whenever we kind of get to senior day is just go over the names that we're commemorating here. And to be honest with you, there's some guys here that I think are going to walk, and I'm not exactly sure, how many juniors we want to go through here, Evan. But Tom, feel free to kind of have your own thoughts. It's always interesting to go through these classes because a lot of these guys, some of them just got here. So this will take a few minutes, but it's always kind of fun to do it. So we'll start with the seniors, Evan. And maybe we'll just say, juniors of note, people that we think will probably be done. But we'll start with the guy at the top here, Anthony Grant. And you know a lot about Anthony. You wrote a big feature about him.
Yeah, I kind of like these lightning rounds. Anthony Grant, his journey to Nebraska from Florida State to JUCO to where he is, to being the feature back last year, to being sort of a reserve this year, but just a really nice guy, earnest guy. Had his moment at Nebraska. I think his story, his personal story to get to where he is as good as anybody's.
It is. Omar Brown, defensive back from Minneapolis. He was at Northern Iowa for several years. I thought he was going to be a really important part of the 2022 defense. He wasn't. Things just didn't work right. I don't know that he got along with Travis Fisher, but this year Omar Brown's been a key part of that team. Another transfer in the program, a guy that's come from somewhere else because they didn't feel like they recruited enough depth. Billy Kemp,
who got another chance because of those tragic shootings in Virginia last year, gets the extra season and continues Nebraska's run of successful portal receivers. I think he's somebody too. You wonder if he would have gotten the ball in space more this year, how much better even could his season have been? But guy who got another sort of chance in college football and made the most of it.
Here's one guy that actually got recruited to Nebraska as a freshman, Quentin Newsome. And, he has developed into a nice corner. In high school, he was a safety, and they moved him to corner almost immediately, and he has been a starter in that program for 3 years now. And he's been a stalwart for one of those years. He was opposite Cam Taylor-Britt, and now he's been the guy that's kind of held it down for the last 2 years. I assume he'll go into the NFL. I think there's a chance he'll get drafted, depending on how he runs his 40 time. But he's one of those guys that decided to stick it out an extra year. His best friend is Miles Farmer. Miles Farmer left, and so it's an interesting story. I don't know that Farmer. I don't know if he enjoyed his time at Syracuse any more than he would have at Nebraska, but one team got its coach fired. So Miles Farmer has the distinction of playing for 2 straight teams that fired their coaches while he was there. I'm sure he enjoyed that. Marcus Washington.
Yeah, coming over from Texas, it's kind of felt like a package deal with Casey Thompson. Gave Nebraska an outside threat. You kind of wish, obviously, he would have been healthy this year. Would have been really interesting to see what he could have done. Would have had an opportunity. But another example of how there's a lot of talent in the portal every year if you go and find it and find guys with the right circumstances. So talented player. Wish he would have stayed healthy.
Josh Fleeks is the next one, and of course, Fleeks just he's played a little receiver, a little running back. I don't really think that transfer panned out exactly how Nebraska had hoped. He does have the longest run of the year against Michigan. He is the guy. He'll be a trivia question one day when somebody says, "How did they prevent the shutout against Michigan?" It will be that Joshua Fleeks ran for a touchdown. Luke Reimer.
Another great story of a guy who's a walk-on, spent his senior year in high school in Lincoln, kept working, quickly became evident he was somebody who deserved to be on scholarship, went on that way. And he's a guy who went to Big Ten Media Days as a senior and got to be a voice of the team, stabilizing force, serious guy who I think has a sense of humor under there in more relaxed circumstances, but hard-hitting guy is going to go down as one of the top tacklers in Nebraska school history.
Phelan Sanford is from Benkelman, Nebraska, and he had the best hit of the year against Wisconsin. So Sanford's has been a really good player. It reminds me a little bit of a Matthew May. People might remember him from the early Bo era. Sanford had a great hit against Wisconsin. He's made plays this year. He forced the fumble against Illinois. He's just been there time and time again. Now, again, I'll say this. In an ideal world, you don't have to play a lot of guys like Sanford, but the reality is he's more than athletic to play in the Big Ten. And so pretty cool deal for him. We're down to the last 3. I'm going to give you 2 here, TP Bleekrode and Marco Ortiz.
Well, yeah, Bleekrode was the guy last year. I'll remember him even in fall camp when it became evident that Tristan Alvano was going to be the guy that Bleekrode carried himself really well and said, he's going to try to find a niche for himself. He had that, what was it? The fake field goal run.
Yeah.
That was kind of a cool moment for him. I know he regretted getting tripped up just shy of the goal line, almost got that touchdown. And then Ortiz, I think the best thing you can say about him is that his name hasn't come up this year. Most Husker fans probably don't know who he is, and that's exactly what you want from your long snapper. So when you talk about going into the portal and finding guys that can stabilize your team, Nebraska did that with long snapper from Florida. So again, not somebody that maybe a lot of folks can rattle off who he is or what he's done, but that's a successful year for sure.
And the last one is Nuri Nwili of the seniors, German foreign exchange student, befriended and lived with the Hausmans. One of those, Ashton Hausmans on the team. He initially went to Colorado State as a scholarship player, decided to return back to Nebraska, started for part of the 2021 season, then tested positive for a banned substance and missed all of 2022 while he was suspended by the NCAA, and has now returned to become a full-time starter as a senior. And he is done. He lost a year of eligibility, so he doesn't get a redshirt year or anything like that. He will be done. Now, there's a bunch of juniors. There's a ton of them. What Matt Rhule said is that he thinks 27 guys are going to walk. We're not going to try to project who all these guys are. But what I will say with some confidence, Evan, is I just feel like in that group of juniors, you're going to have some guys leave, and they're going to be done. They're going to move on. They're graduating. They're going to have their degree done, and they're going to decide to either go on to the NFL or they're going to decide to move on with life. And I'll be curious to see kind of how that all plays out. Nick Henrich obviously is junior, but he just tore his ACL for the third time, the second time in Nebraska. Ethan Piper's got a long road ahead. Ben Scott's probably going to the NFL. Turner Corcoran might go to the NFL. He's been here. Oh, he's only been here 4 years, but it feels longer. Oddly enough, Ty Robinson said he's coming back. Garrett Snodgrass, he's from that 2019 class. Javen Wright from the 2019 class. It'll be interesting to see which of these guys decide that they want to move on. Jeff Sims, right? And Ramir Johnson. Those are the ones. Those are the ones you're looking at. Do these guys want to keep playing college football? And if so, do they want to play here?
Yeah, it's a great question. I thought, what Ty Robinson, just kind of the way that he put that out there this week. I didn't expect that. He would have been a guy for sure I would have looked at and said, yeah, he's been here 5 years. He's got an NFL draft grade, prospects as a pro, and he decided to come back. So, and we've heard that, I think, from Rhule. He's sort of hinted at that at different times this year about, hey, if Marcus Washington could come back, he would want to, or Ramir would want to. And so I think that part of it's interesting, like just the culture that they've set and the developmental track record that they have. But for sure, it's another year where, really interesting decisions where you're going to have to weigh, do you want to come back, try to potentially improve your draft stock, even if you've graduated, and put your faith in this staff for that? Or do you move on to the NFL or to life after this? Like you mentioned, guys who gotten hurt like Piper and Henrich are especially tricky. We talked to Bryce Benhart, who's going to start his 41st game at right tackle for Nebraska on Friday. What more does that guy have to prove here? Maybe he feels like he does, maybe he doesn't. He said he wasn't sure. So once that game ends on Friday, the following week or two is going to be just a flurry, you'd figure, of decisions. It's going to be fascinating to follow.
I thought the Robinson announcement yesterday was like the first the first day of next season. I feel like it's just like a huge boost to everything. No matter what happens Friday, I think it's a good momentum boost. Obviously, they want to win and go to a bowl, but it was a sign that to me, here's a guy who really benefited from the coaching staff and the way they're doing things. Ty Robinson has just been a guy who's played, but hasn't played like this all his whole career. He's really stepped up and became a force. And I feel like he's just on the verge of doing so much more. And I'm not going to compare him to Jason Peter or Grant Wistrom, but it reminded me a little bit of when those guys in 1996, they both said, yeah, we're coming back, and they were the undisputed leaders of the 97 team. And I feel like Ty Robinson gives next year's team a leader, an older guy, a voice, and somebody who has obviously bought into the coaches. I think it's a big deal.
It is indeed big deal. News-wise, the Board of Regents selected a construction manager for the $450 million Memorial Stadium project, and they picked someone from Omaha, Kiewit, which I think is a very good choice, but notable because I don't know that because the practice facility was not overseen, I don't think, by Kiewit. So an intriguing decision there. Do you think that
is that thing open yet? By the way, is that thing done?
It's not all the way done, no.
Okay.
No, it's not. I hope we get a tour when it is done, but no.
That's gonna be frustrating. I'm sure they want.
I think it is frustrating.
But
yeah, I think many aspects of that project are frustrating for a variety of people. I think there's components of that are awesome, and internal components that I think the players love. But it isn't quite done. And it doesn't look integrated or seamless with the architecture around it. It just doesn't. You're walking around the north side there and you see the Memorial Stadium, which is kind of a tan color, and it immediately connects to this sort of ominous black building. It's just doesn't whatever, and that's fine. I mean, it's fine, but it's interesting. It doesn't necessarily feel seamless into the campus. It doesn't matter now. It's built and it'll be there forever, and it'll be this, it'll be the whatever you want to call it, Area 51, the black building, whatever you want to call it. It's just interesting. I that whole project was intriguing. I remember the day it was announced, and Scott Frost was out there for 2.5 minutes, and then he got the hell out of there. Like, he didn't want to be there. I was like, this is so strange. Anyway, yeah, Iowa football. I don't know where that program's going. Tom, you think this might be it for Ferentz, right? Like, this could be the last year, the last game at Nebraska for him. It's possible.
I think you have to. I consider the possibility, and I know what the coach said after they fired Brian, that he was. At first there was a lot of speculation that, okay, he's not happy with this, and he's it could be out. That was the immediate speculation over there. But then he came out the next day on his radio show and in a statement saying, my intent is to come back. I'm if unless they throw me out, I'm probably going to go a couple more years. But it was all these qualifiers. My intent, probably, could be, this. I mean, he never really definitively said he was back. I mean, he left the door open. I think there's going to be. It's not like there's going to be some politics there, maybe, with the new AD. I mean, she basically stepped over him to fire his son, and a lot of Iowa fans are okay with it. They wanted the change, and but Kirk's 68. This is a hell of a way to go out. If you can win Friday, get that 10th win, you win the last division. You're going to go to a good bowl. It's not many coaches that age get a good walk off. A lot of them are kind of shown the door, or maybe it's time, coach. It's time. Not many of those guys get to walk off on their own with a winning feeling. And so I just say, and obviously from what Beth gets, apparently the interim AD, the soon to be AD in Iowa.
Yes.
What she did was showing that she's in control of the program, which Gary Barnett never did. At least from over here in Omaha, that's the view. So does the coach, after being in charge of the program, every time she's got a suggestion, or maybe she wants this certain person hired, or this done this way, are they going to work together? Is there going to be pushback, or is that how he kind of wants to end his career? I don't know. There's a lot going on there, but I think sometimes you say things. I think he wanted to quiet the storm, and there was a lot on their plate, a lot of games to win, a lot to do this season, and so I think by saying calm down, I'll be back. I think he enables the team to kind of refocus and not have to worry about whether or not he's going to be there or not. And they have all the questions every week and have that hanging over their head. So I don't know. We'll see. The question is, if he does go, would he do it before the bowl game and kind of let everybody know? Some coaches like to, on their way out, they like to do it maybe in the offseason or maybe next summer where you have to hire one of their guys. That's what Dean Smith did. And, you have to hire my guy because it's October. And so, but I don't know who Kirk Ferentz's guy would be. So I don't know if he would wait and do that next summer or what. But it's interesting. What I know is he loves to beat Nebraska. He hasn't lost in Lincoln since 2011, and that's a long time. That's a lot of winning in Lincoln, and he's going to want to try to do it again.
He is. We'll get to the picks in a minute. I want to touch on volleyball real quick. So Nebraska obviously undefeated going into this week. Evan, you wrote a really good story that I think will be on the web Wednesday or Thursday morning and be in the paper on Friday about Nebraska's last undefeated team. And you talked to 3 players from that team. And then, John Cook, who was the coach. That was his first year. Added some interesting comments, I thought, on Tuesday. I wanted to give you a chance just to talk about that story. Nebraska's already won the Big Ten title. Nebraska is going to be a top 4 seed, and they are going to be able to host the first 2 weekends of the NCAA tournament. These things are without question. The thing that's left is there's 2. 1 is an undefeated season, and 2 is a national title. Those are the 2 things. One of those things, you can win a national title and still lose at Wisconsin this weekend. So the undefeated season, needs these 2 wins. The national title does not. I wanted to give you a chance just to talk briefly about your story and what the gals from on that team remember from the 2000 year about becoming undefeated and how they achieved it.
Yeah, well, I'm not a volleyball beat writer right now, obviously. I was in college, which was fun, but I just I've heard it a lot from fans. That's just sort of been the conversation, has been the undefeated part of it. And so, what better way to kind of walk through this moment with this team than with the 2000 squad that did it, that went 34-0 and went all the way and finished it off. And so it was interesting hearing from him. I thought what Cook said in his press conference this week was a little bit different from what the players said. He said that 2000 team season was exhausting for him, and he felt like it was all consuming to try to go unbeaten and to finish that thing out. He felt the weight, the burden of it. The players that I spoke with, they didn't feel that way. They kind of, what they said, what they remembered at least, was just being so locked in on winning a title that it just sort of snuck up on them that they were undefeated. And the thing that was interesting to me too was how the challenge is different, not just because the volleyball is maybe better than it was, but because of how much attention's on it, right? With every match on television, with post-match interviews live streamed, with documentaries being done, social media, all the rest makes it in a lot of ways a much different challenge from what they had in 2000. And those players were like, yeah, we had phones, but they didn't work when we went to the Final Four. We didn't use them. They were phones. They weren't internet devices or anything like that. So having that, I think it's an interesting debate, because on the one hand, you've got some former players that said, man, I think it'd be a lot harder because it would be in your face more. And then you've got John Cook and, a couple players who are current coaches saying it's actually a good thing because everything's so instantaneous and in the moment that nobody thinks ahead about things like legacies and big picture type stuff. So I get the sense that this Nebraska team falls into that category where they're just kind of doing their thing. And Sam, you've talked about how, it's hard to beat them when you start from, 0-0 3 times in 5 sets, how hard that is to do. And it just kind of feels like maybe they have the right mentality for that. But it was just really fascinating hearing a group that did it back then, watching the group that's trying to do it now.
Mm. Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah, I was going to say, I find all that stuff fascinating. I think going undefeated is sort of a older generational thing. I don't think it's very rarely done. But I think, especially with this team, I just wonder if a younger team really cares about it, really thinks about that kind of I mean, when you're younger, you're not thinking about history or the legacy. You're thinking about stuff you're going to do this year. And I think that maybe if this was an older team, maybe that would mean more. I also think, look at what they've been through. I mean, everything they've done, the volleyball day in Nebraska, beating Wisconsin, winning the Big Ten, and the national title on the table. All those things are all bigger than going undefeated. I mean, when you play in front of 90,000 fans, it's almost like going undefeated is almost like an afterthought. I mean, it's just there's like nothing bigger than what they've done this season, and so I just feel like I think it's something very good to talk about, and I can't wait to read the story. I just don't know if it's a priority. I think it's the national title is going to be the thing, and but no, I don't. And also, I don't believe in it's a good thing to lose before you go to the tournament. I think winning teams want to win, and they want to keep playing well, and so you don't want to get off of that. So, but it's here. It's coming. The NCAA selection will be the Sunday, and it's the next 2 weeks. We'll try to get to the Final Four, and it's all going to happen quick.
It is. I think Nebraska wins both matches this weekend. It won't surprise me if the second one's harder than the first. I think they'll be real locked in for Wisconsin. They might expend a lot of emotional energy there, and then have a weird late one more match in Minnesota, and we'll see. As far as the draw, I think Nebraska will get a good draw. They'll get the best draw they can. They'll be the number 1 seed. I do wonder if Creighton, for whatever reason, doesn't win the Big East tournament, they slip down to 16. Nebraska does not want to play Creighton. I don't think they would want that. I think it would be hard because Creighton knows them and is not afraid of them. So that would be curious. It would be interesting to see if the NCAA tournament committee would fudge the RPI a little bit. If Creighton's 14, moving back to 16, something like that. I don't know that Creighton would want to play Nebraska, to be honest with you, but I think it would be interesting. I somewhere in the NCAA tournament, I don't know where, Nebraska will get challenged before the Final Four. I don't know who, but somewhere in there it'll be somebody. Let's go to the picks. Okay, Tom is. We did these off air last week, and Tom is ahead. He's ahead by 11. So he's ahead by 11. And Evan and I are now tied. We're tied, Evan.
Uh-oh.
My goal is to
beat bowl season yet.
I'm gonna beat you. We ready? We ready for the rivalries? Here we go.
Yep.
The Egg Bowl, Mississippi State.
I lost the video here. Okay, can you guys still hear me?
We can.
Okay. Yep. Ole Miss for me.
Yep, Ole Miss.
And I will take Ole Miss. The Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn. A couple easy ones to start here.
Bama.
Yeah, Bama. I'm sorry. Are we doing the snake pick?
Doesn't matter yet.
Okay.
Now it starts to matter. Are you ready?
Yep.
Iowa State, Kansas State. Evan, you go first.
Kansas State.
The Wabash Cannonball, KSU.
And I will take K-State. Kentucky at Louisville. Tom, you go first.
I'll take the Ville.
Evan? Or it's me. Kentucky.
I'm going Kentucky as well.
There you go. Risky pick. A&M at LSU. Evan.
LSU.
I'll take LSU. Tom?
LSU.
Indiana at Purdue for the old Oaken bucket. Tom, you're first. Indiana or Purdue?
The bucket. I'll go Purdue.
Evan?
Purdue.
God darn it. I'm going Purdue as well. Northwestern at Illinois. Evan, you start.
Oh.
Man, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Illinois.
Yeah, I'm going to go Illinois.
Illinois for Tom. Illinois for me. Maryland Rutgers. Tom?
Oh, man. Maryland.
Maryland for Tom. Oh, it's my turn. Maryland for me.
Rutgers.
There you go.
Rutgers for Evan. Apple Cup. Washington State at Washington. Evan.
Washington.
I will take Wazoo.
Ooh.
Tom?
Yeah, same here. UW.
Okay. North Carolina at North Carolina State. Tom?
Oh, boy. Tar Heel.
NC State for me. Evan?
North Carolina.
Oregon State. Oregon State at Oregon. Evan?
Ducks.
Okay. Tom?
Oregon with especially with the news about Johnson Smith after swirling around. So Oregon.
Yeah, that's going to be a hell of a hire for Michigan State. What a great hire. What a great hire. This league's going to be legit. It's a hell of a hire. That's a really good hire for them. They'll have the most enjoyable offense in the Big Ten. Iowa, Nebraska.
Who are you talking to?
Tom.
Go ahead, Tom.
I'll go. I'm picking Iowa.
Evan? I'm picking Nebraska.
Iowa.
Iowa for Evan. I picked Nebraska in the 2-minute drill. And the last one, the big game. Ohio State at Michigan. Evan.
Michigan.
Okay.
Michigan.
And I'm taking Michigan. Man, we're gonna have to start finding a way to get some different picks from Tom here, Evan, because we're too worried about beating each other because he's going to maintain a healthy lead over both of us after this week.
I didn't hear the early numbers. What's the lead at right now?
It's at 11. So
okay.
Yeah, I think you're gonna pull it off.
A long way to go.
We'll see. That is our Pick Six podcast for this week. Hey, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll have all the coverage of Nebraska football, volleyball, and soccer on Friday and everything going on. It's going to be a busy December. Believe me, the portal's going to open, and if Nebraska wins on Friday, they play in the bowl. Thanks for listening, and enjoy your trip.